Well guys, Facebook Marketplace is calling yet again. Got to go pick something up. See you then. All right, we made a deal and we're back. I've been complaining about my old Craftsman Atlas lathe for a while now. I can't say anything bad about that lathe. I use it for things it's not intended for and it gets the job done. But we picked up something a little stiffer for future projects. This is a Colchester 13 by 36. Wasn't my ideal lifetime lathe, but it's going to be a good intermediate lathe for the space I have and the work I have lined up. And then when I build an addition, maybe a bigger lathe will join this one in the stable. But this is pretty decent. It's got a follow rest, got a steady rest, 4-jaw chuck, 3-jaw chuck, 5C collet closer already on it. It's already got an Aloris BXA quick change on it. It's all complete. It's not perfect. Coolant pump seized up, whatever, never gonna use it. It's got 2-speed motor, 3-phase, can't really run that yet, but we'll figure all that out. Size wise, this is not actually an upgrade. My Craftsman, I believe, is a 13 by 36 or a 12 by whatever. This is a generally small lathe. I mean, this dump trailer is only 6 feet wide and the lathe is just a smidge wider than the trailer, so it's gonna fit where it needs to for now. But this has a heck of a lot more iron in it than what I'm currently using. It's also, you know, a 3 horsepower motor instead of a 1/3 horsepower. Proper feed for the carriage and the cross slide. No more, you know, trying to make cuts at 221 threads per inch or whatever else I was doing with that machine. So I think this will be just enough to get her done for the foreseeable future. This is a lot of lathe for my skid steer to unload and hopefully not flip this thing on the ground or I'm going to be flipping out. So we'll get into that project tomorrow morning. Well, that's terrifying, but the old Scat Track got it done again. It's definitely at the upper end of where she's comfortable keeping the back tires on the ground. Now that she's on the ground, we can work with it. I gotta clean out the garage and we'll get this thing inside. So she's in and we haven't busted anything yet. So that's solid. She needs a good cleaning, that's for sure. But also, obviously this is 3-phase and I can't run 3-phase here. So there's a lot of electrical components on this thing we're probably not gonna need. You got a disconnect here, you got a breaker or a fuses there, whatever. Contactor. And then you have this massive rotary switch, rotary drum switch. And this actually does a couple things. So you get the lathe on off, so that's on, off, brake. And then this is what? Speed 2 forward, speed 1 forward, off, speed 1 reverse, and speed 1 or speed 2 reverse. Guy I bought it from was pretty adamant on running it on a phase converter just to keep all that function working, and I agree with him. It's definitely a lot simpler. Unfortunately, I don't have one. I probably can't get one in the time I need one. I do have a VFD we can run it on for now. So even if we only get it running on one speed in one direction, it's enough to get me out of this pinch I'm in right now with 2 of these projects. But I want to see if I can pull this rotary switch apart and use this for the low voltage inputs on the VFD, because that'd be kind of cool. Oh, this keeps going. Interesting. If that's really off, 1, 2. I'll have to see what's up with that switch. This handle's a little loose on it. But anyway, there's a shaft that runs through the headstock into here, I believe. So it's got a decent whip on it still, which is good. It's probably 6 gauge or maybe even 4. So anyway, a little more about this lathe. This is a clawsing Colchester, but really it's a Colchester. I believe it comes from the UK. This is probably a mid to late 60s model, maybe even an early 60s model. They call this a round head or a bullet head. The newer ones, starting in like the late 60s, were more of a square one, like you see, you know, your typical like jet lathe or any of those newer, even the newer South Bends. Square head where you can stack tools on here. Unfortunately here there's nowhere to stack anything, but I do like the vintage look of this. Like I said, 2-speed motor. It'll run anywhere from 1500 to 34 RPM, so really nice RPM envelope. With the VFD, we could even go higher and lower than that if we go that route. Typical thread box. Not actually as many threads as the Craftsman Atlas, which is funny, but I don't use any of these crazy threads. I use, 20 per inch, 18 per inch, 16 per inch, maybe 12. Maybe a fine thread, a 32 or a 36 or whatever. So I'm not a big thread guy. I usually just tap a die if I don't have what I need. Though metric threads are a problem on this. You have to do a bunch of math and change some gears to do metric. I don't do a lot of metric. The only thing I could think of would potentially be coilover bodies. I'd have to come up with something for that. But otherwise, yeah, it's got a proper cross feed. It's got this nice little container here to actually hold chucks and your steady rest and your follow rest. And then it's got like an accessory drawer up here which has a couple of goodies in it. Here's a BXA tool holder. It's got a legitimate Alaris post on it, so that's nice. Jacob's chuck. I think this is an MT3 taper here, and it's an MT5 in here. Plus it's got the taper lock chucks, which are pretty easy to use. You just run this ring on, clamp it down, keyway holds it, taper centers it. Pretty nice design. This lathe has a lot of features that I was looking for, and it's got a lot of iron in it, so it should take a decent cut versus what we were dealing with the Craftsman one. Oh. There's your 5C drawbar there. Alright, so here we are in here. Drive belt to the motor. She's been sitting for a little while. These belts don't look amazing, but we'll get it running with them. I believe there's a brake drum underneath here. That's where you stop the headstock at. It's got 1.5 inch through bore on the spindle too, which is actually really good for a lathe of this size. You see there's some change gears here. You can flip things, move things around. It also came with 2 other gears that I found in there. Some combination of these may allow metric activity. I don't know. I have to research all that, but that's not what we're here for, so let's not get distracted. All right, so I was a little wrong about how this works. So the on position, off position, brake position actually is happening with that switch there. That's pretty chill. So on, off, and then brake. It pulls on this mechanical linkage here, which I guess spreads some brake shoes in this. Then you see this little shaft coupler here. That's the rotary switch that does our high-low forward reverse. So we have two different switches to work with here, but I think that'll actually be easier to wire up. So I pulled the rotary switch apart. Looks very clean in here. There's a lot going on, but all these parts fell out. That has evidence that a screw used to go into it, and then some kind of bushing that's the same diameter, and then, you know, a hex key type deal. All right, and it's got a pretty big boy motor in it. It's 220 volt, excellent, 3-phase, full load amps, 8.5, 60 hertz, 3 horsepower at full load, or at full speed. It's a 225 frame. I wonder where this thing's made. This might be a English motor as well. Yeah. Huddersfield, England, AC motor. 1700 on the high speed, 860 on the low speed. We'll probably just run the 1700 at 30 hertz to make our 860. I think that would be the easiest way. The seller told me that this switch may have a bad contact in it. He was having trouble getting the motor to start. Well, that could have something to do with it there. But we're going to be using all this stuff for low voltage now, so hopefully the contacts are good. I have good faith in this rotary drum switch. It looks so clean in there for being 60 years old. Oh, and this, I traced the wires, is actually for the coolant pump. This has nothing to do with the lathe operations. We can ignore all that. Couple hours of reverse engineering all of the switch gear on this thing. Spreadsheet, and mapped out what wire goes where in every position of the switch. And through that, I was able to determine how this motor should be wired. What I was surprised to see is that all the low speed coils actually tie together when running in high speed mode. So there's 6 manipulations when you flip that switch from off to high. There's only 3 manipulations when you switch from off to low. So it was a little tricky to figure out, but I got those 3 low speed coils bolted together. Got some temporary wires run here to a spare VFD, and then I have an extension cord tied into that to 240 volts. So we just got to plug it in and see what happens. All right, let's hope for no smoke. VFD's booting up. Now, I've never used this one, so it's probably still in default. But it is a 3 horsepower unit. I bought this for my Bridgeport. The Bridgeport only has a 2 horse motor on it, so I got another one that's 2 horse for that. But I've had good luck with these TECO Westinghouses. All right, let's just hit the run button and see what happens. Okay, we have turnage here. Motor sounds good. The belts do not sound that great. Now we're only running at 5 hertz, so it's running extremely slow, but the direction is correct. So I got lucky on that. All right, there's 45 hertz. Now we got some spindle speed we can play with here. So our bar is turning. Oh yeah, we are feeding carriage. Great. And it's going the right way. It sounds pretty quiet. I know these are known for having kind of a loud gear train. You know, I'm gonna have to go through all the fluids on this. Whoa, we got stuff falling. Start her up again. Lead screw on, lead screw off. We can test the threading, so we'll disengage our slide, drop our thread half knot in, look at that. No idea what pitch that is, but it's something pretty aggressive. Then we want to see if our cross slide feeds as well. Beautiful. So that's coming out. Thread dial's working. Man, she really sounds good. disengage our screw. Drop that out. Cool. Well, that's a problem. Somebody put a bracket on here and screwed through the headstock, so the oil's coming out. Power switch wired up. Pretty cool. Yeah, so converted the high voltage switch to low voltage. All that's doing is sending a signal to the VFD saying, hey, turn me on, turn me off. The VFD ramps down. I have it on a 3-second decel. I kind of want to be able to use the actual brake, and I know from the Bridgeport, if you run the brake too hard, it overcurrents it on the decel. So I may have to play with settings to get it to just free spool. That way we can use our integrated brake here. So that was an easy parameter change. I'm glad I found it. I might do it on the Bridgeport now. It's 07-09 on a Westinghouse. Comes on, off, then you can hit the brake, lock it up, nothing gets mad at you. Getting closer here. We're actually really close. So if I change this to low forward, she runs. We're at 30 hertz. Grab second gear. Comes up to 60 hertz. You can shut it off, use the brake. That's off. That it should be reverse 30 hertz. Turning backwards, 30 hertz. Grab second gear in reverse. And you're there. You can change speeds on the fly. That'll turn right around for me. Low gear, high gear. That's it. So basically we have replicated all of the factory functions using all of the factory switches and levers, but with a modern VFD that runs on single phase 220. You know, I really like this setup. I'm not a huge fan of grabbing an old piece of equipment and then just mounting a switch box on top with all the VFD stuff. I mean, it is nice. It does work nice. It does the same thing, but when you're running old stuff like this, I like to be able to just grab levers. You know, they got a nice positive click to them. They feel good. It looks good. It looks original. Back here, you know, I had to take apart a lot of the wiring. I even labeled where everything came from, where all the jumpers are. I made diagrams in my computer, so if I ever had to put this back to a 3-phase lathe, we could do so. But I mean, other than this wire hanging out here, you'd never know this wasn't a factory setup. Obviously, this box is now abandoned. This motor starter is abandoned, but I have a bracket that I welded in here for the VFD. That'll be enclosed in here. It won't get any chips in here because this is a whole coolant area over here. This is actually sealed up pretty nice. This will be protected. Even on my Bridgeport, I don't have a nice enclosure for the VFD. I just have a shield around it, and I've never had an issue yet. Nothing's gotten into it and damaged it. So I'm gonna put all the gardening back together and kind of get this thing cleaned up a little bit, and then I think it's time to make a test cut and see if this lathe makes chips. Just really hype on this because I did all of this without ever leaving my house. This is all just crap I had laying around. I had some 6-conductor machine wire here, which was exactly the amount of wires I needed to make the switching happen. Got this 8-gauge extension cord, which would be fine for power. Got some 10-gauge well wire. When I pull my well out, that'll power the motor. All cleaned up for the most part. Just gave it a wipe down, cleaned up the paint. I mean, it's not in perfect shape, obviously. Cleaned and oiled the ways. These look really good. There is an apprentice mark here where somebody dropped a chuck, but you know, that's pretty far up here. It's not going to affect me. Some people would be very offended by that. I am not, however. I mean, even with a collet chuck on there, you got to be all the way up on the collet to let that thing affect you. So, man, she's really smooth and quiet. Feels great. Tailstock glides, baby. Just glides. Never had anything that nice before. Really, freewheel's nice. Like everything feels good. Cross slide gets a smidge tight once you get past center. Like right here, it's starting to get tight, but she'll keep going. So it's been adjusted to take out any slop here. Fine with me. I rarely go past center, maybe for boring. And I find that if I need to do work over there where the thing's tight, I'll just rotate my compound and do that. Backlash wise, the compound is worse. See all that? You can actually see this gap grow. Oh yeah, the chrome cleaned up really nice too. That needs an adjustment. There's probably a collar under here or shims. We can adjust the screw. The thread nut actually feels good. It's just the whatever's going on with the screw back here, but not a big deal. What I'm coming from, this is a massive upgrade. Internal bore on this spindle feels flawless. The external, you got these marks here, but you can't feel them. This thing feels smooth as glass. The key's in good shape. Lock ring looks good, so I think we're doing all right here. Just fits on the taper, then you start your ring here. I forget what this type is called, American long taper or something. This Hardinge lathe that I used to run at a company I worked for had this setup on it. Almost identical, collet chuck and all that kind of stuff. And then you throw this big spanner on here. Put the brake on, just give her a little torque. I don't think these have to be tight. You can lock the transmission. I feel like that's enough. I don't know. Cool to have a 3-jaw. We'll see how this works. I never have been able to use a 3-jaw on my Craftsman Atlas because it had so much concentricity issue. I've been running a 4-jaw on that machine since day one, and having to indicate every single piece in every time does take me a lot of time, but it made me very proficient at it. That old lathe taught me a lot. It taught me how to work around your machine, and it taught me really the importance of like tool geometry, depth of cut, feed rate, harmonics, all that kind of stuff that I think makes a good machinist a good machinist. I'm not saying I am one, but I learned a lot because my lathe never band-aided anything, and I was always using it outside of its capabilities. So I learned a lot with that, but we'll see how this goes. I don't have a chuck wrench for this, but it looks like it's just a 3/8 square drive, so we'll use a ratchet. Yeah, I'll have to build a wrench for this. This will work for the time being. Woo! Looks pretty good to me so far. Got this threw in 5 or 6 genuine tool holders as well. So that is some good value there. We'll put my tool in this tool holder. Just eyeballing center line for now. Yeah, I'll be close enough. 50 thousandths depth of cut. And we're on DA, so we'll go 10 thousandths per rev. See what happens. Oh, baby. I have never made a cut like that before. That is Hagen's material. Well, there it is. I need to check if that's 50 off the diameter or 50 off the radius. Should probably know that kind of stuff, but that's a pretty heavy cut, and she took it like a champ, and you heard that thing load up. We were running in low gear, 30 hertz. So we've got, we're that way, and then spread, that's at 750 RPMs. That's kind of high. Well, whatever, I took it. I don't know anything about feeds and speeds, so got a lot to learn there. Never mattered before because I couldn't do anything on my old lathe, so that's exciting stuff right there. Like chrome, baby. You can see where I had chips dragging here, though. I do have a chip control problem, but that is outside the scope of the lathe. That's my job to get the feeds and speeds and inserts right and all that stuff. But boy, am I happy with that. This thing rips compared to what I'm used to. I don't know if it's a great lathe or not, but it is so much better than what I have. Well, I got some things to figure out with parting too, but it did it. $16 TPI on the money, baby. Well, that was stupid easy, guys. That would have been... This is just such a nice piece of equipment for me. I am so excited right now. Here's that ring I parted off. Nice thin boy. But she got hot, got too hot, so I have a lot to learn with that kind of stuff. So another thing I was questioning on this is, does this motor make more torque at 60 hertz or 30 hertz? What I did to test that when I was parting and I needed a lot of torque was I ran it at 315 RPMs in low speed, and then I flipped the gears around and ran it in high speed at 360, which is pretty close, and it performs very similar. So I would assume the torque it makes is similar. You do get more of a gearing advantage moving gears around to get more torque out of it, but I think it's going to work fantastic in all modes. I'm just so excited that all the factory levers work. Low range, high range, reverser up. It's very factory feeling, that's what I do. Now it's time to get it into its hole back there, which is going to be a bit of a job. I'm thinking my best bet is to actually push on the wood blocks with the skid steer very slowly to get it back in the corner, because picking and dropping is not going to happen without rotating the Bridgeport, and I don't really want to do that. So we'll see if we can ski it in, and then I have some special made feet from the guy that are 4-inch tall, just to like save your back a little bit, because this is, I don't know, it's not that tall of a lathe. Now the Craftsman was worse and my back would hurt when I was bending over doing things for a while. This will help a little bit, so we'll use those feet that he made as well. Well guys, sorry my camera died pushing this in. We're closer. I remembered before I went all the way to the wall that it's got a nice chip tray or splash guard that goes on here, so I bolted that up. It's almost in position. It's got to come this way 3 or 4 inches, and then I slid the mill over about 2 feet, moved that workbench left, and then angled the mill so I get full travel every way without hitting the vise on that workbench or the lathe. You know, it's definitely tight back here, that's for sure, but I got to work with the space I have. And it's cozy. Can still change my waste oil filters here. Draining the collection tank's going to be a little tricky, but you got to think about what you do most. So, you know, I'm going to spend 100 hours standing here and 100 hours standing here, but only 5 minutes a year digging for parts over here and 20 minutes doing waste oil stuff. So, got to do what you can in a small area. Now, getting these blocks out, getting the feet under is going to be interesting. I think that's going to be a floor jack situation, so. Okay, it's on them. Now, I don't know if these help with cleaning or hurt with cleaning. I mean, it brings the cabinet up off the floor, which is nice ergonomically for me, but now crap can get under there. I'm sure it gets under there anyway. We're up on the feet. I wasn't able to move it this 3 inches here. We'll just have to deal with that. Because once it's off the blocks, it doesn't want to slide, and I'm not going to come in here and lift it again for that. But anyway, preliminarily, she's level. Level up here. Level here. All the feet have sufficient preload. I know that's not nearly accurate, but it's enough of a starting point. We'll have to cut a bar on here and see how it cuts. Shoo-wee! Steady rest and the follow rest, I haven't cleaned them up yet, but man, it is going to be so nice having these. I was working the whole time with that other lathe without a steady, and I would never even consider a follow rest on it. So having these, that's a huge thing. 3-jaw chuck, that's actually nice, seems to run pretty concentric too. Fantastic. The 5C collet closer, that's all you can ask for, plus this big old 4-jaw here, which I'm very excited about. This is probably a 10-inch or so. Probably 10-inch. I mean, for reference, this is what I was working with. This is what I was working with on the Craftsman. So this is just a huge step up for me. I know it might not mean much to a lot of people, but this is going to be very, very good for me. The guy before me built this sweet tool carrier here. Drop all your inserts on. You can fit more tool holders up here, chuck wrench, all that kind of stuff. Just handy stuff. Chip guard, splash guard, whatever. Chip tray. The Craftsman just dumps everything on the floor. You know, maybe one day we'll even get fancy with it. We'll put a coolant pump in here and run flood coolant. Who knows? The options are endless here. Chrome, baby. So I think this is going to do everything I need for the foreseeable future. This may not be my forever lathe. This won't actually be my forever shop. It's a wreck in here that's 100% my fault, but I will be building an addition here and then maybe another shop in the future. So it is what it is. You got to work with what you have. You can't just wait in life until you have something to unlock other potentials, right? So you just got to get after it, do what you can with the space you have. This is not ideal. I'm gonna back a car in here. It's gonna come to like here, but this is my little machining spot, and it's a hell of a lot better than a hand drill and a grinder. I get a lot of work done in this corner. Other things to do, I need to put another receptacle in because right now I need to unplug the mill to use the lathe. That's no big deal. We'll get that wired up. Need to do some test cuts on this, get it all tuned in. I'm going to change the oil in the headstock, the gearbox, and I don't think the apron, carriage, whatever it's called, has oil on this model. It doesn't seem to. It's totally open in the bottom, so nothing to do there. Maybe I'll get into some of this backlash situation, but that'll be all future videos. For now, I am super tickled pink with having this piece of equipment in my shop. This is going to be a game changer with what I can make now. I think I did a great job with the Atlas. I made tons of parts with it. They all work, but this is going to take it to the next level. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this down in the comments. I am not a machinist. I know there's people that are going to watch this and say you called everything wrong or you did everything wrong. I know I didn't cut those threads right. I know I didn't part that part right? But I'm just doing what I can out here, just free balling it, just learning as I go. But at the end of the day, we do make some successful things out here. So as always, thanks for watching Spank Ranch Garage. Let me know what you think about this down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.